Hi there, everyone. Wiley Peterson here. Just doing our weekly meeting here. I just wanted to share a little bit about intermittent fasting today. Talk a little bit about that. It's kind of the whole, all the rage here lately, and so kind of want to talk about that a little bit and benefits versus how to do it and little tips there that you need to know. Um, so basically, intermittent fasting is eating in cycles or what we call delayed eating, right? It can be very customized and specific to each person. There's obviously different lengths of fasting. There's the 16/8, 5/2, 24 on, 24 off kind of thing. Even, 3-day fast, that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of different variations and you'll get different results based on which type of fast you do, and it depends on your metabolic makeup, genetics, overall health, things like that. So things to be aware of, but um, what works for one person may not work for you. So just being aware of that if um, it it's not something that you should necessarily stick to for your entire life. It may be something that you cycle on and off, things like that. Um, so in terms of intermittent fasting and what it does on a cellular level is that the idea is that um, it kind of forces a little bit of a stress on the body, kind of like exercise would. It's a little bit of a stressor, which is a good thing, and it causes the body to react and rebound and um, turn on certain um, mechanisms to help with overall health. If you think about how, historically humans, mankind, how we've evolved, what was our lifestyles like, 500 years ago or 1,000 years ago. We would go through periods of not having any food to, maybe uh, killing an animal or finding some berries or, whatever, and then we would eat until we were full, and then we may go another period of time before we eat again. So there could be some, benefits to trying to mimic historical eating patterns, things like that. Again, a lot of this can depend on your genetics. So, um, where your ancestors uh, came from and the types of patterns and foods and all that can definitely be a factor in whether or not intermittent fasting is uh, beneficial for you or not, and the types of, and the kind of fasting. So uh, it again, it can help with autophagy, which autophagy is basically programmed cellular death. So a cell has a life cycle, and we don't want those cells living past their normal or optimal life cycle. We want them to live, do their thing, and then die. And so intermittent fasting or just fasting in general can help with autophagy in that it, keeps reduces the nutrient level, the sugars, all that stuff, so that your body basically says, hey, we got to get rid of these cells that aren't really, we gotta minimize the the cells that are just taking up a lot of extra energy. And so that could be kind of an audit, cellular audit, if you will, you might call it. It can help with insulin sensitivity because, uh, when as you hopefully understand that when you eat, especially if you eat a lot of sugar. Your body's just constantly pumping out the insulin to keep that sugar under control and use what it can. And so eventually you develop some insulin sensitivity. This is the receptors, the insulin receptors on the cell um, are reduced, so you don't have as many insulin receptors. And so then you need more insulin to kind of basically um, overwhelm the cell to try to get the sugars in there. And so intermittent fasting can help to increase your insulin sensitivity. So it takes less insulin to do the job. Um, you can get into a, a state of ketosis where you're basically you're using fat as energy rather than sugar, which is a more efficient way of burning energy. So intermittent fasting can offer that. It can also help with growth hormone, human growth hormone, because insulin is counteracts human growth hormone. If you're on any peptides or anything like that, like Sermorelin, you might have heard that from Dr. Willie that you need to take it in a fasting state so that that insulin doesn't counteract the human growth hormone. So there's definitely some benefits. Um, it can help you in that it helps to break your food addictions. I think a lot of that is can be just more of a psychological thing, is that when we get hungry, we think we have to eat. And so doing intermittent fasting and just being mindful of that, like, okay, just because I'm hungry, do I really need to eat something, right? And I will say one caveat is if you end up having hypoglycemia where your blood sugars drop dramatically, then uh, intermittent fasting may not be for you, right? Because if you go from a person that's eating a typical diet, standard American diet, right, where it's high carbohydrates and high fats and high sodium, and then now all of a sudden now you're doing intermittent fasting, your body's not used to using fats as energy, it's used to using the carbs. And so that could cause a significant drop in blood sugars and things like that. And then you just don't feel good when you do that. So it definitely is something, it's a process. It's not something that you want to start right away. If you're early on in the program, you definitely don't want to start intermittent fasting um, until you've got your diet a little bit fine-tuned better, and where you're eating a lower carb, simple carbs and things like that in your diet. But if you're to that point where you're eating mostly whole foods, not eating very much um, sugars, your blood sugars aren't um, going up and down a lot. You've got a pretty stable blood sugar uh, cycle, then intermittent fasting could be something to consider. Uh, I will say that from what I've learned that in terms of the autophagy or cell cycling, cell death, and cell recycling kind of stuff, a lot of the research showed that doesn't typically happen until you're fasting about 36 hours. I was just talking to Dr. Willie, and he said that there's a window of 36 to 96 hours that you have the most benefit in terms of uh, uh, growth hormone, adrenaline, all those things. And so, but for a lot of people, maybe a 36-hour fast is not a great, not something that they could do. And so, uh, again, if you're kind of like you're eating a healthy diet, but you just kind of want to break that food um, addiction type of thing, get out of that, kind of help yourself get out of that mindset of thinking that you have to eat every 2 or 3 hours. And that then intermittent fasting could be something helpful. It could also, you know, assist you in your weight loss journey. Again, if you um, do end up doing a intermittent fasting, then it's important that you kind of do a little bit of research behind it. Ask, you know, maybe talk to me or Dr. Willie about it, and we can kind of give you some insights. It may be worthwhile to check your blood sugars while you're doing these fasts. A CGM, constant glucose monitor, a little thing that you stick on your arm there, could be worthwhile to do before you start your fast and then while you're doing your fast, just to see how your body responds. Because if your blood sugars aren't dropping below 90 while you're doing an intermittent fast, then an intermittent fast is not going to do anything. It's not going to benefit you as much because your body's keeping your blood sugars up. But if you see your blood sugars dropping below 90, so 60 to 90 is a safe range, then intermittent fasting could be a benefit for you. So things to keep in mind. Um, Again, if you're just getting started with it, it would be worthwhile to start slowly. Maybe say you know, skipping a meal here and there. See how you feel. Uh, Make sure when you are fasting that you're staying hydrated, drinking plenty of water. Um, Teas, maybe some coffee could be helpful for appetite suppression. You will find that once you get past a certain amount of time, I think it's usually about 24 hours or so. It's a little different for everybody. Once you get past 24 hours fasting and you don't feel hungry anymore, you might even feel like you're more awake and more alert. But again, I would caution you not to do that type of fast unless you are working with closely with one of us or you know, nutritionist. And so, and then make sure when you are uh, coming out of your fast that you don't go and overeat and overdo it, right? Overindulge, right? So when you are breaking your fast, make sure you're just doing it as you would a normal healthy meal, right? Don't overdo it like, oh, I haven't eaten in 16 hours, so I need to eat a lot more. Don't, that's just going to sabotage your efforts. So make sure you eat reasonable meals when you do break your fast. Good healthy protein with some good veggies, things like that. Um, Again, make sure you're drinking plenty of water to help flush the system, stay hydrated. That's very important. Uh, don't try to go too fast, too, you know, in doing a fast. Don't go too rapidly in terms of, you know, going from nothing to doing a 16 24-hour fast, you know. Start start slow, kind of just, I think getting the right mindset is important too, of like, why am I doing this? It's helping me as you go through the hunger phases and you know, think about like, okay, why am I, you know, do I need to eat? Am I going to die if I don't eat in the next little bit, right? It's lunchtime. Am I going to die if I don't eat, right? And just kind of keeping those things in mind as you kind of learn more about yourself and food and what it does to us. And so uh, again, it's not, intermittent fasting is not for everybody. The most important thing is that you're eating a good healthy, you have a good healthy diet, and that you're you're moving, you're active, you're drinking plenty of water, those sorts of things. Intermittent fasting should be one of those things that you know, use as a cycle. Maybe every periodically you go through um, times, episodes where you're going to do a little bit of intermittent fasting, one day on, one day off for 3 months, or I'm going to do a 16/8 fast where I'm fasting for 16 hours and then I eat in an 8 hour window for a month or two and see how I feel. kind of back and forth like that, just as a way to kind of shock the system a little bit, but also to kind of get your mindset right when it comes to food. So um, just to recap again, there's definitely some benefits to intermittent fasting. It's not for everybody, so don't think that just because somebody uh, did intermittent fasting and then they did great that it's going to work for you too. There's things that you should work with us to answer those questions and find out if it's the right approach for you. Um, be um, be mindful as you're doing it of why and how what's your relationship to food and that should offer some benefit to you when you do this fast to learn about um, your own uh, habits and patterns and processes so that you can break whatever negative addictions you might have to food and things like that. So hopefully that has been helpful for you. I'd love to hear any questions, comments. Um, if you guys, again, if you can't make it to our visits, our meetings every week, watch them and send us your questions, email us or give us a call and we will try to answer those questions if we get any questions. So but yeah, keep on that path to optimal wellness. I think nobody ever regretted being healthy. And so keep going. Reach out to us if you have any questions about what your own personal health and what may or may not be appropriate for you. So thank you and yeah, we'll see you guys later.